Stewart and AOC. I'm not sure how many of you guys have already watched it or not. I guess like one's if you have seen it, two's if you haven't seen it, 1.5 if you saw some of it. And if it's sometimes these conversations, the weekly show with Jon Stewart, sometimes these are a little bit more resident sleeper. So if it's a little resident sleeper, I have another story that I want to cover afterward.
It is
wow,
like
that's so crazy.
It's
crazy. Hey everybody, welcome. I came out of my seat on that one. I was so excited to be to be speaking with you. Welcome to the weekly show pod. We are recording this on the Tuesday following the inauguration of the 47th president of the United States, also the 45th president of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump. Our guest today will be Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm excited to talk to her because shit is changing by the millisecond. Executive orders are flying. Oligarchs are tweeting. It's all happening. Everything that was done in this previous administration has been repealed. The Gulf of Mexico is now the Gulf of America. Canada is now officially classified as our hat. I don't know what's changing. Everything. We're not in the climate accord. America has announced itself as we don't give a fuck. The mountains have different names. I don't even know what I'm looking at on a map. I feel like it's one of those when you get one of those maps from like when England would just go in and just redraw, like, okay, that country doesn't exist anymore. I'm just going to call that, I don't know, Lebanon. Why don't we do that? Here's Syria and draw a little line. And I don't know. It's going to take weeks to just parse just what the rules are. And any more about.
Is he on set? I feel like most of the time these people are on set.
Gravity is still in effect.
No one's house looks this clean. I don't believe it.
I believe, or did he?
I've been an adult for too long at this point. No one's house is this clean.
Did he executive order that as well? I don't quite know. You're apparently now allowed to shit in the water. Like, I don't know. It's all a blur. Everything that we thought we knew about the infrastructure and what to call America's back, baby. We're back, not just as a country and a family of nations, but as the nation.
No, I have two identical chests of drawers in each room. Yeah, this like layout also is like insane. This is obvious. This has to be a set. Who would have like two drawers and then two chairs facing each other? What exactly would you do in this room? What would you do in this fucking octagon room? Hexagonal room. What's the like?
We win, you lose, biatch. I don't know if that's whatever that translates to in Latin. That is the new motto of the United States of America, and I'm excited to talk to a person today that I think provides a modicum of hope, a level of fight and of ideology that I think, boy, needs to be injected into this moribund party more than ever. So I am just going to jump on in and introduce our guest for today's podcast. All right, so we are going to get to our guest. We're very excited. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, welcome. You are the Congresswoman for New York's 14th District, the fighting 14th.
That's right. Thanks for having me.
700,000 strong, the Bronx and Queens. And I thank you so much for taking the time. How was your day yesterday? What did you do?
I kept my ass at home. And
inside. Did you watch the proceedings? Or did you try and avoid everything?
I watched his speech, and I watched them not be able to turn on the music for Carrie Underwood.
I felt so bad for her. She was just standing there.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to be the administration of competence. We're gonna make everything work again except the PA. That
Yeah, I was like, we are off to a great start here. But you know, I watched his remarks and leading up to it, and then
Guys, I'm torn on AOC. I'm torn. Because, like, I want to believe, and I still do believe that she is a voice for, like, Justice Dems and leftists and stuff. But also, the Israel shit was awful. The concessions to liberals was awful. And I just want to believe that the concessions that she's had to make are part of, like, the politics game, but she's not. But she is still for the people. Because I get that, like, you have to make concessions. That if you are a congressperson, you have to make concessions, right? You have to give people some of what they want so that you can get some of what you want, right? I'm not delusional, and I don't think that, like, you should just fight and die on hills that aren't winnable. But man, it's... Play ball. You have to play ball, yeah. Who do you think could run a successful progressive campaign in 2028? I always thought that maybe AOC, but not anymore. Maybe Greg Casar. Who do you think could run a progressive? Yeah, I think I still think AOC has a good chance of winning a 2028 campaign, but like, whew. I think the problem is they're going to push Newsom. I don't even know who else they would push in 28. I mean, I guess like 4 years is a lot of time for us to see new candidates. If the country still exists, like, I don't... If Trump... Who knows? Maybe we'll get Trump for a fucking third time, okay? I think anything is possible in this fucking clown world at this point. But they have to push Newsom, right? Mr. Gruesome. They'll try running Cory Booker. I thought you said Boober for a second. I was like...
out. I was like, all right.
Newsom, release the water.
I've seen enough.
And nothing surprising. Was it strange to you, you know, one thing that...
She's still 50 years too young for president.
That struck me was sort of this sense that the Bidens or the Democrats wanted to preserve this decorum. You know, it was such a, I have to say, it was such a surreal scene to see someone who had attempted what he had attempted at the Capitol be handed the reins of power, not just in a peaceful transfer, but one that seemed to want to honor the tea ceremony. And is there a middle ground between storming the Capitol and would you like oolong or throat coat? Like, what are we doing?
I totally agree with it. You know, but this is like a thing in the Democratic Party. This is a thing, particularly with the Democratic establishment. It is this like, I actually think it speaks a lot to some of the class differences and the class striation in the Democratic Party. Because, you know, yesterday was also MLK Day.
Boy, did that get lost.
Yeah. Yes, it did. And one of the things that MLK would talk about would talk about, you know, this tension between people who value order over valuing justice. And and I think there is this really strong attachment to order and business as usual. And I think also a lot of Democrats see that as a contrast. Like, they're like, see, we're not them, so we are going to ask you what, you know, kind of tea you want, as opposed to calling it like it is, which I think sometimes is seen as a little more gauche.
And that is in many ways kind of how you made your bones. And I think you're right. Like, even when you think about, and not to get in the weeds, but, you know, so you were on the oversight committee. And I thought did really great work there. I mean, good questioning, the kind of questioning that I think would get to the gist of an issue or would break it down in terms of what the dynamics were. And when you wanted to be the ranking member of the Oversight Committee, the Democrats decided to hand it to, and nothing against Representative Connolly, but he's 74 years old. And it's almost as if they were saying, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is really great at this, but he's 74. So there's nothing we can do. He's a 74-year-old man. He's first in line.
I mean, there are rules and structures and orders in the Democratic Party. Right. One that we know very well is seniority. And they, it's like, it's a seniority rule type of system. And it is true. My run, it was a challenging of an entire system. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just about me or about again, I think Jerry's great, but it wasn't just about two individuals.
By the way, that was his campaign slogan.
Yeah.
I think Jerry's great.
Yeah. But it was about challenging a system and a system and a way of making decisions in the party. And the problem with that is that when you
thought we were a merit-based society now, yeah, just like comedy is legal now.
Asked Democrats sometimes to challenge the way that they've been operating for decades. It's existential in some ways. Like, if we don't make decisions like this, what could we possibly do? What would result?
That's amazing. And doesn't Trump's rise and the way that he's operating make farce of that?
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, he clowns them, that it doesn't look like a holding to protocol. It looks like submission. It doesn't in any way appear to be they're maintaining the thing about the party that is ineffectual, that doesn't do anything. Yet that's the thing they seem to cling to the most.
Yeah. And not only that, but the other thing that makes it dangerous is that...
I mean, Spinny, thank you for the 3 years. Ramirez, thank you for the prime. Thanks. For submission. Okay.
Makes us remarkably predictable. It makes the Democratic Party highly predictable in the decisions it's going to make, in the people that we're going to select, in the type of people we advance, in the way that we make decisions. And when we are highly predictable to the opposition, they will be 1, 2, 4 steps ahead. They know what Democrats are going to do.
You're talking on more on a procedural level, or do you mean also a kind of ideological level?
I think both. I think they know what we're going to do politically. They know, how we position ourselves, even within internal squabbles, when there's a progressive or whatever you may want to say about it. They kind of can map us out. And because of that, they're able to operate around that. They'll say, oh, yeah, they're going to do that, or they're not going to do that. No, there was never any question about who or who wouldn't show up to the inauguration, for example, or how they would be received, I think.
Right.
And they know that. And so they're able to, to your point, Trump is able to run roughshod through these things because he has a lot of the party's number in terms of how they're going to operate. And I think that sometimes making certain calculated but unpredictable choices is a way that we can gives ourselves the upper hand.
And it also, I think, in some ways, it reveals some of the Democrats' posturing as performative. When you're creating apocalyptic messaging about a fascist,
literally
coming over and doing these things, and then when he wins, sitting down with watercress sandwiches and cream cheese and doing the whole 9 yards, it makes you wonder, well, did you believe any of the shit you were saying before?
Exactly.
Or was that something, again, that was just a part of your messaging?
Yeah, no, it's really true. And I think what makes this go around with Trump so much more dangerous than the first time around is exactly what you're saying. It's that he is much more normalized this time around. than he was the first time. The first time, people were really on edge, they were on guard, they were very vigilant about any break that he would have with these norms. This time, the norms are becoming him. Like, the norms are embracing him. Even these like little things that people may not, like everyday working people may not care about, but they are strong cultural signals. Oscar de la Renta, like dressing all of the women, like there's all these cultural symbols, right?
I see, participating now in this when they wouldn't have participated in the past.
Exactly.
I see what you're saying.
So like all of these people that were scared before about like being associated with him, from the most common basic level to the most elite level, they're all like they're all in now, because this is now a billionaire feeding frenzy. It is a kiss-ass race.
Man.
It is, how can I show how much fealty I have to Donald Trump in order to get my digs? And I think what's really important for people to understand, and like now and every day of this administration, is that you're being ripped off. You're being ripped off, dude. Like, everyone is being ripped off. And he goes up there and he says what he wants to say, but he's just the quintessential New York con man.
I mean, for God's sakes, they launched meme coins the day, like I can remember in the first administration, you know, somebody would intimate something and the Democrats would scream, he violated the Hatch Act.
Yeah.
And like everybody would go crazy, and then everybody have to look up the Hatch Act. And now these guys are literally just launching meme coins before the inauguration and piling up billions of dollars in wealth.
Yes.
It's kind of an incredible transformation. But again, it feels like, let me ask you this, because maybe this is a different way of looking at it, because in some ways it reveals, maybe to the cynical mind, the way that you believe this shit always has worked in the past. That the idea of, and I'll give you an example, the gentleman, Martin, who is running for Democratic National Committee chair, right? So he comes out and he says, hey man, we're not going to, you know, we're going to take money from the good billionaires, not the bad billionaires. And if money corrupts, and this happened in a conversation I had with Congresswoman Pelosi as well. She said, money corrupts the process. I said, well,
but it's like, it's sad because there are so many Americans that unironically think, oh no, I'm a temporarily embarrassed millionaire or billionaire. We can't tax all of the billionaires, because what if I become one? First of all, you're not going to become one.
You raised $35 million and, oh, no, that's we can't disarm. And I said, well, how does money corrupt the Democrats? And she said, well, it doesn't. It corrupts them. Money's bad for them, but for us, it's good money. And isn't it almost better for us to now have this arrangement be explicit?
Yeah.
And be out in the open so that we understand this is how the world fucking works. This is how it goes round.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, like, it will still be hidden, even if you make it explicit. Like these meme coins. People do not really understand, nor should they, frankly, in a lot of ways, crypto. But if, God forbid, your job requires you to understand this, one of the things about crypto, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of crypto is just scamming poor people and money laundering for wealthy people.
But doesn't that in some ways reflect the reality of our system in the first place? It's just a more grotesque, hyperbolic version of a system that's not working.
I think actually, like, when you look at how, for example, Putin has operated in Russia and the way they've been able to kind of take things over in these oligarchies, these kleptocracies, they prey on that exact logic, on that exact predicate, which is that everyone's corrupt and it's all corrupt And so who gives a fuck?
I mean, it's literally a race to the bottom. This was me during fucking my final college classes before I graduated, when everything was COVID and everything was online. It's like, well, I'm not gonna fucking like actually not cheat. I'm not gonna just study. Everybody else is cheating on these fucking tests. Are you fucking kidding me? Everyone else is using Chegg Study. God forbid there's a curve in your class, right? When that's happening in your government, it's Jover. It's actually Jover.
Sorry.
Yes. How dare you?
To be clear, Chad, I don't think it's actually Jover, but I'm saying it a little bit facetiously.
At long last, have you no decency?
And you might as well just get yours. Right. And the problem with that is that we just entirely give up on a better world. Like that's the crux of it. It's to get good people to just give up and say, this is just how the world works now, and I might as well just throw up my hands. And the fact of the matter is, like, I know this is hard. Maybe this is something like I would say or whatever, but like, I think it actually is important to understand that there are good people, and they're like, and we should be doing good things. And when we decide to make that the norm, and when we decide to uphold it and value it, and even regardless of party, like, don't vote for the people who are doing bad things, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican. When we decide to hold people to a higher standard, then things actually do get better.
Also, Democrats got caught in hundreds of lies during the Biden administration. I mean, how do you expect people to continue to vote for you when you keep saying, I'm so sorry, we can't just sign an executive order saying you should get this thing that we said you would get? We can't do anything. It's just so hard to be us. It's so hard to be a Democrat. Ugh. We just can't do anything. And then Trump gets elected, and he doesn't even know what the fuck he's signing. There's a guy's like, this one's a good one. Just sign it. Oh. What's this one? Don't worry about it. Okay. What's this one? AI? Okay. What? Trump, as soon as he gets elected, he's sitting there. He spent a whole day just sign. Oh, that's a big one. Oh. Okay. War with Mexico? Sounds good. Come on, I want to sign more things. Give me more things. I want to sign. But Democrats can't do that. But Democrats are like, oh, but the pen is so heavy. And what if I sign it and then I change my mind? Or what if I get a cramp while I'm signing it? Or, what if, the pen explodes or something? I don't know. Who knows what'll happen? Who knows? We can't do anything, guys. Oh. Why? You want me to vote for this piece of shit who can't even find... What if the pen is Hamas? Exactly, Timur, exactly. Trump literally signing EOs on things that are unconstitutional on day one. Meanwhile, Democrats, maybe we can do something in the future. Maybe we can do something in the future. Oh, Mayor Worm. I know, I'm so streamy. I know, what if I ate you, Mayor Cat? Anyways, yeah, I mean, the idea that Trump would even try and get birthright citizenship revoked is insane. I mean, it's a constitutionally protected right. And this is coming from someone who doesn't like... I do not admire the Constitution, okay? I do not look at the Constitution with a sense of pride necessarily, okay? It's just, this is the document we kind of all agree on. Let's try and follow it the best we can. And the things that make sense, we'll keep them. And the things that don't, we'll amend them if we can. To be like, yeah, birthright citizenship. I don't care that it's unconstitutional. let's try it anyways. Let's see what happens. And then when it comes to student loans, it's like, well, we would, but then the student loans are like, they're tough and they're tricky. And if we try and fight for it, then maybe something bad will happen. And then the court system, and then, so we're not even going to try. Then why did we give 500 concessions earlier this year? Okay. We can't be mean. That would be rude.
But don't you have to know what you're up against? Don't you? You know, how do you fight an enemy that you haven't defined explicitly? And I'll give you even an example in a small thing, because I think this speaks to a larger, deeper issue that I think I want to get into with you, which is, you know, we all look at, oh, why did the Democrats fall flat? Was it, oh, Joe Biden got out too late, or Kamala Harris didn't have a time, or she, you know, whatever that was. But I think at its base level, it was a feeling that government is not being responsive to the discomfort of its people, right? Which breeds a certain feeling that there's this disconnect. And so we have to be able to define why. And I would put this into kind of a unifying theme of governance, which is, for the Democrats, oftentimes they're so analog. They're so tied to Robert's Rules of Order, and they haven't realized, like, oh, it's fucking UFC out there now.
Yep.
And we have to switch the way. But then you also have to define what that's going to mean for how you govern and what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Would that make sense?
I mean, I think so. You're kind of preaching to the choir here, because
that's why I had you on.
I believe that we need to be a party of brawlers for the working class.
There you go.
And we have turned into a party that caters, and this is reflected in the electoral results. We have become a party of people who cater to like this weird, like almost people who call themselves upper middle class, but they're actually like kind of wealthy.
You're talking about me now, aren't you?
No, you're not middle class at all.
No, I meant wealthy. That's what I meant.
But it's like this suburban, like, kind of thing. And we've been chasing this.
Sorry, my cat will do this thing where he, I guess, like guards me. He'll like sit on the floor next to my chair, and then he'll wait until I'm done streaming. Mealworm. I want to show you this. I don't even know if you'll be able to see. Oh, he's just barely off camera. See this tiny little gray? Mealworm. All right, back to the video.
Affluent group, and making all of these little concessions and hoping that working people don't notice.
How does that manifest? If you could give us an example of what those concessions might look like. So how, in a practical way, when you're
totally agree, King Mom,
chasing a different group, because in my mind, look, one of the biggest issues in my mind is over the last 40 or 50 years, labor has been devalued and capital has been elevated. So investment and finance is king, and labor is in many ways devalued. So in what way have you seen those kinds of, moves made?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most kind of famous one that comes to mind is Kyrsten Sinema doing her little curtsy when she voted down the $15 minimum wage. But it wasn't just her. Like, that was the most public expression of it. But there were a bunch of Democrats in the Senate behind her that also voted it down. And I mean, people are struggling so much right now. $15 an hour is nothing. This was the demand 10 years ago. To be honest, when you index it, it should be higher now. And it is nothing. And what people hear when when there's all of these senators voting against it with all of these excuses of like, oh, well, how is it going to impact business? And first of all, these laws are very thoroughly, there's already dozens of compromises before you even get to the floor. It's not like it turns on the next day, like there's phasing periods, all this stuff.
And how do those compromises occur? Are those placed in because of who has the ear of the congressional people, the Senate and the House? This is the effect of big money and lobbying. Yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, it's really interesting. So you kind of mentioned this oversight race. So I didn't win the race. But one thing that did happen is that I've been assigned to a very powerful committee, the Energy and Commerce Committee.
Right.
And they're kind of known as one of 4 money committees in Congress.
They can do the appropriating, or they're just as a part of it, because it's not the appropriations, but it's
So the 4 committees are financial services, that's kind of governs Wall Street. You've got Ways and Means, which is taxes. You have appropriations, which is like government financing all these programs. And then you have energy and commerce. So basically all of the regulation of energy, of healthcare, of tech, of all of it goes through this committee. And I've served in several other committees before. The day that the news came out that I got assigned to energy and commerce, my staff's email boxes blew up with lobbyists, just tons of lobbyists just flooding our emails.
Wow.
And it is literally because of this assignment that I got. And
like, hey, man, what's up? Like
hey,
what kind of, was it like, hey, what's up, Congresswoman?
It's
just
very
checking
like,
in.
It's very like, hello, fellow kids. Like, oh, I was at the Bernie rally, like back in the day. Like, I'd love to chat. And the thing is like, I am afforded, because I am supported by everyday people. Like the average donation to my campaign is like $17 or something like that. I don't take a dime of lobbyist money because I am afforded that independence, because everyday people support me. I don't have to, I'm under no pressure or obligation to take a single one of these meetings, not one. And I don't meet with lobbyists. It's just not really something that I do. And, you know, if my constituents or if everyday people are organizing and coming to my door, I'll open it. If I have policy, like I will go and find the answers that I need for certain things, but I don't make these kinds of decisions. But these compromises that you mentioned, how they happen along the way, it is important for people to understand how Congress is structured. Like every bill that gets proposed gets assigned to a committee. That committee has a chair. That chair is the head honcho.
And especially in the House, it's all or nothing. I mean, like even if you have a 1-seat majority, you control all the business that goes through that committee.
That's right. And people don't really know that. But if you have, for example, this majority right now, especially because Trump is appointing some people, there's only 2 more Republicans or so right now in the House than there are Democrats. But if you just have 1 more or 2 more, you gain control of all the House committees. You decide what legislation gets voted on. You do all of it.
Who gets investigated? Who's allowed to call witnesses?
I will say I do have respect for her that she doesn't take lobby money. I mean, it's like sad that that's even. I'm going to do the lib thing, or not the lib thing, the leftist thing. It's sad that that's even impressive. Like it's insane that so many politicians just take millions of dollars and just get bought out, and there's nothing that anyone cares about anymore. Mayor Worm, come here. Come here. He's thinking about it.
Those witnesses, I mean, you control the entire operation.
Yeah. And the minority party just has to basically sit there for 2 years, and maybe you can rename a post office if a Republican's going to throw you a bone. But
all right.
It's pretty limited.
Shitty.
That's how those compromises happen, because you need to win that vote. Like I think about back when Biden was.
Why is lobbying even legal? I mean, before the oligarchy that we basically have now, there was a time where you could hire, if you were, for example, a bunch of farmers and you didn't feel like farmer interests were ever represented in Congress, farmers could get together. They could pitch in a bunch of money. They could buy a lobbyist. They could pay a lobbyist to go and fight for your cause in Congress. That was the purpose. That was the original goal of of lobbying. And lobbying was at one point beneficial and could empower collective groups of people. Unfortunately, same as Citizens United. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into Citizens United, but yeah. Unfortunately, at some point, it just became massive corporations and unbelievably rich fucks just paying as much money as they can to buy out as many politicians as they can. Lobbying used to be something that was good and normal, and you wanted lobbyists. You wanted people. You wanted to be able to collectively pay someone to go and fight for you. Very similar to like you pay a lawyer to defend you in court, yeah? Generally, you do not want to defend yourself in court. Even if you are a lawyer, it is very not recommended to defend yourself in court. You want legal counsel. You don't, and as a layman, you don't want to defend yourself in court because you don't understand the law well enough, right? I'm built different, yo. Yeah. You want a lawyer to go in there to fight for you because they understand what rights you have and they are going to be the best suited, hopefully, for helping you win your case against to a judge or to a jury, right? In the same way, maybe you don't understand Congress that well. You just wanna farm, bro. You're just trying to grill. But you want your values, your concerns, and your desires to be heard by the people who write the laws. You pay money to someone who is capable of fighting for you in Congress. They tell you that they will do the best they can. Grill, baby, grill. And then they do that. They're able to collect votes for you. They're able to help certain bills get pushed for you. Again, unfortunately, at some point, lobbying just became, Citizens United is a good point there. And like just in general, Reaganomics, billionaires becoming prevalent. Lobbying just became, oh, yeah, here you go. Here's $5 bajillion. Can you get this law passed? Convince however many people you need to vote. That's why Democrats will vote for the most insane fucking policies. Is that why are you voting for this? Oh, because you're getting a payout for it. Got it. Citizens United accelerated this oligarchy, ruined traditional lobbying. I mean, yeah, it's Citizens United also is like complicated, but the short version is yes. She seems to have an even keel. She can get lost in the sauce. That Instagram live supporting Biden the midnight before he dropped out and well past it being obvious he was too old and couldn't run again. I mean, I understand her position, which is I don't think Kamala's going to win. And she was right. Kamala didn't win. But fuck, man. I don't think Biden was going to win. Also, no standard. If you don't stand for anything, you can be taken for everything. Yeah. There's still some good lobbying out there, too. I mean, yeah, it's just that, like, the good lobbying is a drop in the bucket compared to the billions that, like, corpos can afford. At this point, lobbying has allowed corporations to write the laws. Like, isn't it kind of insane that there are things in America that have, like, 80% approval ratings and they're still illegal? Like, marijuana, for example, is a crazy one. Like, I'm in awe that, like, the vast majority of Americans think that, at the very least, I think it's like 85%, even higher, think that marijuana is not scary or dangerous. And at the very least, should be rescheduled as a drug. That it doesn't belong in its current scheduling. That I think it's currently with like LSD. What is it currently scheduled? 3? No, it's scheduled 1. I forget every time. It's a schedule 1 drug with heroin and LSD. Oh my god. As well as ecstasy and peyote. Excellent stuff here. Really good. The way that they define it is like potential for abuse, essentially. That like heroin is, I mean, I've never tried it, but apparently very, very, very addictive. And the chance you will abuse it because it is so addictive is high. And also that there's no medical application to it. I think it's, last time I checked, the Pew Research poll showed that like 85% of Americans think that Schedule 1 for marijuana is insane. Because at the very least, there are instances, there are practical medical uses for marijuana, for cannabis. One predominant one is pain management, that it's a safer alternative for a lot of people who don't want to use opiates, but want help managing pain. Which I think is, I mean, I think it's worth trying for those patients. If someone, especially for patients who have had previous opiate addictions, right? I think we should let them let them have weed, god damn it. And then the other thing is I think for seizures and for Parkinson's, people who experience seizures and people who deal with Parkinson's have found cannabis, special strains, special oils or whatever, to be very beneficial, that they 100% help. Yeah, it's also impossible to OD on cannabis, which is the other reason why it's very, very good, or sorry, the other reason why it shouldn't be considered as dangerous as some of the other drugs that exist. You're not gonna, you might like get the weed scaries, but there's no amount that'll like kill you, right? Like there's no dose that your body can't handle. Or the level that you would have to get to is like 500 weeds. Like it's an insane amount, right? You're going to pass out from the weed scaries long before you die from ODing. It's not, I mean, yeah. What was I going to say? Right. So, sorry, getting back to the point. So there's genuine medical uses for cannabis. There are people who are helped by medical marijuana. It is simply factually true. Also, the general population doesn't believe it to be a very dangerous drug and believes that it should be used in the same way that alcohol is used. Responsibly. 80% of the population thinks we should either, at the very least, reschedule it, or decriminalize it, or legalize it. And what do our laws say? No. No. Is that not insane? Is that not crazy? Is it not fucking insane that the general population, the vast majority of Americans all agree on this, and it doesn't matter what we think? Also, medical marijuana refers to the cannabinoid content, not the THC. Yeah, but when something is federally illegal, you can't have any of it, depending on what state you're in. I'm aware that for people with seizures, the THC isn't what is beneficial for the seizures. It's the non-THC. Not necessarily CBD, but there's something in the middle there. I'm forgetting I don't remember all of the names for all of the different parts of the fucking weed. But it's insane. It's just crazy. It's just fucking insane. there are a ton of other cannabinoids, yeah. That there's the non-THC cannabinoid that helps with seizures should be legal, but it is not legal. Because it's a fucking Schedule 1 drug. That's fucking insane. Is that not crazy? LGTB stop. So, oh my god. Dude, I will never forget. I had this like low-key, he was kind of a crockpot, but low-key he was kind of base as fuck. He was my communications professor. And I remember, like, I don't think we learned anything about communicating in that class, by the way. Like, that professor was awesome. I don't think we learned much about communication. We had, like, a 5-minute presentation, and he, like, taught us, like, how to read extraneously off of, like, flashcards, basically. But besides that, I don't actually think we learned anything. A lot of it was just, like, him saying all of the things that he hates. He was big Dan Carlin energy. Or sorry, George Carlin. I keep saying Dan Carlin. He had big George Carlin energy. Less funny, for sure, but I will never forget he was like, you want to know why weed is illegal? You want to know why? It was criminalized. Exactly what this chatter said, by the way. If this is you, teach, mad respect. I loved your class. Criminalized to protect paper industries against hemp. Now criminalized to protect pharma and law enforcement. And that's precisely what he said. He was like, yeah, it was for paper companies so they can chop down more trees. And then to push the drug scary against minorities. Anyways, today's class, what we're gonna do. Love that class. Great class. Oh my god. I love school. You just get the most crazy professors sometimes. It's dope. I still like think back also on my fucking Marxist professor, my Marxist law professor.